Each day is the true Sabbath. Should we Catholics do as Jesus did on Saturday, or should we observe Sunday as Sabbath? Well, neither one of that. We don't do as Jesus did because Jesus was born under the law of Moses, which he kept perfectly. And Saturday, the seventh day, was the Sabbath, which was their day of rest. It is the only one of the commandments that are not part of the natural law. That was part of the discipline for Israel. The natural law is the law of God in our heart. We do observe Sunday, but it's not our Sabbath. The Sabbath remains on Saturday. Sunday is not the Sabbath, the seventh day of the week. Sunday is the first day of the week, or what the church calls the eighth day, in that it is the new creation. Why do we worship on Sunday? Why did St. Paul and all the Jews, early Hebrew Christians, why did they worship on Sunday? Because they had been worshiping Saturday, but they came to believe that the Lord of the Sabbath rose from the dead on Sunday. And 1 Corinthians chapter 16 shows us that they began to meet on Sunday. Isadora says, I myself observe Sunday, good, but I have a hard time because my son's father is telling me all the time that it's not correct, that the church changed it. Church did not change it. And Constantine and the resurrection and so on. No. And he has a point. How can we human change something that God put in the law from the beginning? We cannot. Jesus said, I didn't come to abolish the law, but to fulfill it. And he fulfilled it. The book of Hebrews, the writer of the Hebrews says that when we're in Christ, we have entered into our Sabbath rest. Sunday is not the Sabbath. We do observe Sunday, but it's not our Sabbath. The Sabbath remains on Saturday.
The church seems to have changed that. That's wrong. Okay, the church didn't change it. The Sabbath is still Saturday. The question is, who is bound to observe the Sabbath? And the answer is Gentiles have never been bound to observe the Sabbath. The Sabbath was part of the Mosaic covenant with Israel, and as a result, Gentiles, and Thomas Aquinas agrees with this, for example, but he's also just right exegetically, Gentiles were never understood as being bound to observe the Sabbath. It was a uniquely Jewish holy day. So this is a uniquely Jewish institution. And according to St. Paul in Colossians, the Sabbath and other Jewish days, like the annual feasts and the monthly new moons, were a shadow of the reality. They were types of Christ. And he says now that the substance, which is Christ, has come, the shadows are no more. So we don't have to observe these days anymore. And he therefore says, let no one judge you in food or drink, referring to kosher laws, or in respect to a feast or a new moon or a Sabbath, the three kinds of Jewish holy days. So Paul says nobody today is bound by these things because the law has been fulfilled. It's not even required of Jewish people anymore. So what the church did do in recognition of, so the church didn't do anything with respect to the Sabbath. Christ